Greetings and salutations. It is I, Mr. Nothing, the museum curator of the weird and the strange, and the host who might be a ghost. Welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual literature that I have found while serving as a priest throughout England. Today, it is Tuesday, so I wanted to talk about, I wanted to focus on Short Story Tuesday. Yeah, that one day out of the week where I focus on short form literature written by various authors, a lot of whom I don't know about, which is always great. Not only am I getting to experience short stories, but I'm also encountering more authors that I've never heard about. Although some of them, for good reason why I've never heard about them, abandoned to the annals of history, so they say. Nobody says that. I just made that up. Anyways, today I wanted to focus on a short story that features a priest detective of sorts. Multiple short stories that focus on priest detectives of all things. I am referring to Father Brown short stories by Gilbert Keith Chesterton. Yeah, that's how you say Chesterton. So what's interesting about this book is that it's a collection of short stories all from the same author, which I've encountered before. But this is different in that they're all about the same character, Father Brown, who is a clergyman who also helps detectives. He might be a private detective himself. It's never really clear what his relationship is with the law, but he clearly knows more than the police officers a lot of the time, which is interesting. So I wanted to focus on a specific short story that I found in this collection. I'll provide a little summary, a little analysis, and we will move on from there. So the specific short story I wanted to focus on was called The Blue Cross. So the story it's from the perspective of a French detective named Valentine. He's arrived in England, and he's searching for a criminal, like a career criminal who's done a lot of nonviolent crime. His name is Flambeau, if I'm pronouncing that right. And a lot of the crime that he's been accused of is pretty funny. He's been accused of switching the numbers on houses on an entire street just to ensnare one particular person. He's also been described as starting a milk company with thousands of customers. And how he does that, the legal part of the whole thing is that he steals milk from a rival company and sells while it's already on the doorstep of other people. So he's essentially stealing milk in order to fund his own milk company, which I think is funny there. But yeah, he's on the run from the law, and he's always been able to be one step ahead and escape. And he's searching for the Blue Cross. He's looking for something to steal at this point in time. While Valentine is at a coffee shop, he notices that he accidentally put salt in his coffee, and when he asks the waiter about it, the waiter's like, "Oh, that must have been one of the two clergymen that were here earlier." So they're like, "Oh, they had a little spat." Or not, they didn't have a spat, but they got into argument, and while one wasn't looking, they put salt in their coffee, and the other person who drank the salt didn't react at all. So the cop is following this trail because he thinks it might lead him to Flambeau, because it seems a little weird. One of the clergymen overpays at lunch, but he doesn't notice or say anything to the waiter at that restaurant. Another one breaks a window, and again, nothing is really said about that except he pays for the window. And then one of the clergymen asked, like when they mail something, they ask like the clerk to reroute the package to another address. So Flambeau is like, I'm hot on the trail of Valentine is like, I'm hot on the trail of Flambeau at this point. So Valentine manages to finally catch up with these clergymen, and he overhears one talking to the other about reason in the church, and just they're having a discussion about God and the universe and stuff like that. And then like one of the clergymen, who is revealed to be Father Brown, says to the other, like, you're not really a member of the clergy, are you? You're Flambeau. I know you're a common criminal, and like you're after this blue cross that I have here. So why don't you just give yourself up? The police are right behind a tree over there, because one of them is a great detective, Valentine, and he has been looking to arrest you. And Flambeau is like, what? How did you know? Like, you're just a simple priest who's not allowed to have sex. And I think those, like, he paraphrases, but he says that exact sentiment right there. And like he admits that like he always caught on to the fact that Flambeau wasn't a real priest, and so he's been sending like little clues to Valentine, such as like changing the price on the lunch to make it overpriced, and adding salt to the coffee, and like he noticed that like Flambeau wasn't saying anything because he didn't want attention drawn to him, and so that kind of indicated that he was on the DL, on the down low right there. And so he also didn't get the Blue Cross because that was in the package that Father Brown had rerouted to him. And so Flambeau at this point has pretty much lost. And he's like, when we had that argument before about God and whatnot, you weren't standing to reason there or anything like that. So I kind of got it. And also because I am a clergyman, I am familiar with people who live in sin, and like you are a person who is clearly living in sin. So take him away, Valentine. And that's pretty much how the story ends there, with Father Brown victorious and Valentine getting his man. In terms of analysis, there's not a lot to pick up with this story. It's a very brief story, and a lot of it focuses on Valentine like searching for Flambeau and then eventually stumbling upon them when Father Brown is having a discussion with him. Overall, I found the story to be very boring. Like, not only this story, but the multiple ones I read in the collection, a lot of them are just like people recounting what happened to Father Brown, or like people just simply talking about the case at hand and then being like, yeah, that guy did it because, XYZ, what you said in our conversation. In a lot of ways, it reminded me of Murder in the Rue Morgue, where like most of what happens in the story takes place with the characters discussing like the murders that happen, and like how a lot of what the eyewitnesses and the clues are showing up, like they don't make a lot of sense for the overall story. So that's what you're getting here. And I didn't like Murder in the Rue Morgue for the same reason. So I felt like this fell a little flat for me. It's kind of disappointing too. So that's unfortunate. It felt like this was somebody who was trying to do Sherlock Holmes, but they didn't know what made Sherlock Holmes successful. And that's pretty evident later, because Flambeau eventually becomes like Father Brown's assistant, which is like Holmes and Watson. And this makes sense for the time, that this would be kind of a copycat, because G.K. Chesterton, Gilbert Keith Chesterton, was alive around the same time as Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And it makes sense that he tried to write a similar set of stories about a fictional detective in an interest of getting attention from that. But I think it fails because he doesn't know what makes Sherlock Holmes intriguing. Like, there's a little action, like there's a lot of what Sherlock Holmes, the way Arthur Conan Doyle tells the story, it's very eye-grabbing, and like you want to learn more. But here it's just like I'm bored a couple pages into each story, and I don't want to read anymore. Which is interesting. Like the thing that I do like about the story is the humor involved. The way Flambeau is described as like a hilarious type of criminal, like that's very interesting to me. So and like many critics have pointed out how similar Chesterton is to Oscar Wilde and similar like his contemporaries at the time. How like he had a very strong writing style. It's just maybe the stories he was telling weren't all that exciting. But overall, I would say I didn't like the story. Again, maybe there's a reason I didn't know about Chesterton before reading this. Like he's lost to the annals of time and only kept alive in short story collections like this. But if I recommend it, I would say no. Like if you want a piece of history, you can absolutely check it out. But I don't recommend you seek out any of his work unless you're doing it for a specific reason. But if you disagree with that, if you like G.K. Chesterton or Father Brown, feel free to comment below and let me know what you think. I would love to have a discussion with you. Otherwise, you can like, share, and subscribe so that Short Story Tuesday can get out to the masses, and we can grow this idea into something bigger. Until then, I wish you the best of time in your weird and priestly travels. Farewell.